Hey everyone, welcome to the Trendcrusher podcast. I'm Peter K, aka Trendcrusher. First episode of 2024, and it's a big one. I'm joined by Scotty, the man behind Tankcrimes. Tankcrimes is a label that I've been following for a while now, and when the opportunity came up to have a chat with him, I definitely grabbed it with both hands. We discuss, his punk roots, his roots in skateboarding, what he thinks about bands and whether they need a label or not, and also the latest from the Tankcrimes camp this year. The Ghoul EP is out right now. There's a new Necrot album which is fucking great, and a lot more. So here's Scotty telling us all about it. And I'm really happy and honored to have Scotty from Tankcrimes on the podcast. Welcome to the podcast, man.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's really great to be here. I'm really excited to talk to you.
Yeah, and like I said, before we hit record, I was trying to rack my brains as for how long I've been following you on social media and just Tankcrimes in general, right? Because like before I knew you as a person, I knew of Tankcrimes, and like as a metal fan across the world here in India, it's just been great to kind of hear just all the various bands that you've been kind of putting out and all the kind of music, right? So really glad to speak to you.
Oh, awesome. I'm actually I'm quite flattered that a metal fan in India knows so much about what we're doing here out of my garage in California. It's fantastic.
Let's start with that, right? And because I was kind of reading up on you, and what I like is you talked about it just being a passion from you. And when I had to look back, you started all the way in 2002. So instead of asking you the origin story, and I'm sure you've told it so many times, and I'm kind of tired of it. If you have to look,
I just told my wife, I hope I don't have to tell my origin story too many times today while I'm on my press tour.
So tell me this then. It's been 22 odd years. What's the same in all these 22 years? Like, what has not changed?
Well, a lot of the people I work with are the exact same. One of the things about Tankcrimes is I don't take submissions. Because of my involvement in the music, I'm already friends with plenty of people working on music that I feel needs to get a label behind it. So I'm still working with some of the people I've been working with for dang near the whole time. One of the new records where I'm promoting right now is for Ghoul. I've done like 7 or 8 records with Ghoul, and we started working together in like 2006 or something like that. So, and we're just, the guys from the band and I were just texting minutes ago, so a lot of the people have stayed the same. And one of the things that's different though has been my ambition grows as the bands grow, like every time I see a band have another opportunity, it kind of fires me up like, oh, we can do this, we can get there. Just ourselves, or we can work it like that. And early on I've always felt like the underdog, but I feel now being the underdog is empowering to me.
Yeah, and that's interesting, right? Because like you're one of those people I really look forward to online with the whole DIY philosophy, right? I mean, you kind of talk about it. I mean, I love how one of the recent things I saw you, and I love how you use Instagram for that, where you literally talked about, hey, if you send me a self-addressed envelope, I'll send you like merch, or I'll send you like freebies and stuff like that. And I was like, who the hell does that? Because I remember back in the day, like sending self-addressed envelopes to people and stuff like that. And the fact that that still kind of works, and you've kind of built that following. What's that been like? I mean,
yeah, what's funny is I'm stuffing those envelopes right now. That campaign is ending. Like the people are finally getting them back. and I got like 350 of them, and I didn't realize it was going to take me like 10 hours to do all the work. I thought it would be really fast, and it's not. After we get off, I'm doing several interviews today, and when I'm done, I will spend another 3-4 hours just opening, stuffing, and reclosing envelopes. But I just like stuff. Same thing. I grew up doing self-addressed stamped envelopes. It's how I used to get stickers from skateboard companies, and a lot of times you could get zines back in the day. People would send you your zine just for some stamps and stuff like that. So I always thought that was cool, and I understand why that goes, kind of the way of the dodo bird, as they say, and people aren't doing that anymore because we have this instant communication right in our hands. But I still think that there's a lot of value in it for a couple of reasons. For people like me and you who growing up like that, like nostalgia is a powerful drug, and it's really a fun drug too. Nostalgia, there's a reason why that it like works with your endorphins and stuff, and at the same time, I think introducing stuff like that to younger fans who don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, and taking the time to explain it and showing them why it's fun, that's fun too. Like, I like sharing that, and also like not being a dick about it. Like, some people in the comments when I do stuff like self-addressed stamped envelopes like to say stuff like, oh, these fucking dumb kids will never get it. They'll never know how great it was. My attitude is contrary to that. My attitude is these kids don't know because this isn't something that's common procedure anymore. And it still has value for me. So I would like to take the time to explain it to them and hope that they can find how much fun it is the way that we do and share in it. Also, what a lot of people miss when they say to me, Scotty, why are you still putting flyers up on phone poles? Why are you using the postal service to communicate with your fans? Well, like I said, there's value in it for me. But what those naysayers are missing is that when you do stuff in the real world, it actually translates to much better online content, which is as my job, what I'm supposed to be producing to get people's attention and get eyeballs on what we're doing and eyeballs on the band. And stuff like an internet video explaining how to use the postal service does really, really well. A photograph of a flyer hanging on a street pole or inside a dive bar actually generates much more attention than if I was going to take the JPEG file from our designer and just put it online like that. So I found by kind of cross-pollinating stuff from the past that was more in the physical world, that works really, really well in the digital world. So I think people that don't get it, that's a part they don't get also. It also makes me better at communicating on our phones by communicating in the mail, So I just love that stuff.
Wow.
And thanks for
you kind of
appreciating
talked about the posters, which I was going to ask you, right? Because it's so rare. And especially like coming from a place like India, where we've also realized postering and all of that. But then if you think about it, and this is what I wanted to kind of understand from you also, is there is this whole thing of instant gratification. But there is also a factor, like I still remember certain CDs or certain T-shirts that I bought, it taking time to reach me. So the moment it took that long, I appreciated and I valued it a lot more. Is that something that you're seeing also with fans? And especially with, I'm not generalizing about just metal fans. I think it's music fans in general also, right? Who feel like that.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that focusing on the value of that really works for people, like for instance, like I said, I'm stuffing these self-addressed stamped envelopes right now. I'm not going to leak here on the podcast what's coming in the return envelope, but I made people send these in like 3 months ago. So my general idea is that they will kind of have forgotten about it. Not entirely, but they're not thinking about it every day. So when they go to their mailbox next week, and get it back. And you open the mailbox and you see your own handwriting on a letter addressed to yourself. And then you go, oh yeah, this is that fucking thing I sent to Tankcrimes, you know? And so, it does get that like, oh, I've been waiting. I've been anticipating this, you know? And yeah, you're right. In this world of instant gratification, Scotty at Tankcrimes actually made me wait so long for the reward here that I fucking forgot about it. And that, like I said, like a lot about stuff in the physical world, we're also addicted to our phones, right? And that's that tech did that to us on purpose. And they're even turning all the social media apps into like cable television now. We're just flipping through commercials, and it's just enough to keep our little endorphins flickering to keep us on their app. And they know what they're doing. They didn't make it all ads until they were confident we were all addicted to it. So now they can just, now it's like, I think social media reminds me of flipping through cable TV late at night and just seeing commercial and commercial and commercial. And then you stop on something that's just good enough to take your attention for a little bit before you start flipping and flipping it again. They knew that we all had to be addicted to the apps before they could turn them into a primary means of advertising. And so, but you do get those endorphins. That's why we're addicted to our phone. You get the endorphin as much as you don't want to admit it. When someone likes your post or writes you something, whether it's friendly or not, you're getting a charge from that. So that those endorphin charges didn't start when they invented the computer. They've been around since the beginning of time. So my idea of having an endorphin charge when you receive mail from me, and that I'm hoping to like create a memory, you know, something that you'll harken back to when you're discussing with your friends. Oh, there was that really cool thing that Tankcrimes did, you know? And I do that with my mail order too. One thing that's also really important to me, and I actually even struggle with I don't pack the day-to-day mail order. I use a company called Merch Table, who are great, but I'm always up their ass. Like, oh, you need to make sure every single order that comes in, no matter how small, gets free stickers, free posters. Please put it in. And I understand that, I mean, they're managing like 100 web stores, and they're managing web stores that are much more popular than mine. I would say I'm kind of probably in the middle, you know, of like sales with all their clients. But it's that same thing. I want someone to open, if someone takes the time to order a physical LP off me, I want them to open that box, and I just want shit to pour out all over their couch or their kitchen table. And I just want that like wow factor, you know, like, holy shit, I thought I was getting one record, which the record looks great. This is incredible. But on top of the records, you know, Tankcrime sent me 5 stickers, a poster for another thing. And then I also like to, one of the things they didn't get was they would always put the sticker and poster that matched the order. And I said, yeah, that's important, but it's equally important to put some different bands in there, because I'm doing Tankcrimes now in 2024 is basically like 3 or 4 contemporary metal bands and then 3 or 4 punk bands from the 90s that I'm reissuing. So I really always want to take the opportunity that somebody who orders, say, a Dystopia record off me will then get like a Necrot sticker and maybe check it out. Maybe they don't listen to that much death metal, but the one thing that like threads through all the Tankcrimes bands, no matter what style of music that they play, is a background in punk. You know, like we just all kind of share more punk values, which I think everyone can agree are different than metal values on the surface. There's a lot of things that cross over, but that's what's behind a lot of Tankcrimes is the punk values and the friendship there. So yeah, I'm really trying to mix those things, physical stuff and like hitting people's little positive endorphins, and doing that both in their homes and in their hands, as well as while we all stare at our screens all day long.
Wow, that's so beautifully put. I mean, I want to add to this because what you were talking about, right? Like I work in content creation and podcasting in my day job also. And my boss used to work as a
Okay.
television producer. And a lot of the stuff that we do for YouTube now, sometimes we're sitting back and going like, hang on, isn't this exactly what happened in the 90s? The only thing that has changed is just the medium or the channel or the distribution, right? Otherwise, yeah.
Yeah, where
Otherwise,
you're
it's
finding
exactly
it.
the
Yeah.
same. If you go back to what's on YouTube right now, it's just basically 90s reality stuff or music stuff and all of that kind of things, right? So the formats haven't really changed. But okay, you've kind of whet my appetite quite a bit. And before we kind of get into that part of the
Okay, sweet.
conversation, Tankcrime's been like literally every year there's at least one or two albums that I've really enjoyed listening to, right? So
Oh,
one
that's
of the
great to
things I
hear.
want to know, and the way we can kind of transition our conversation, is tell me an album that you think people should have heard last year from Tankcrimes, but probably haven't. And let's play a track from that.
Oh, okay, cool. I think that the Deathgrave album that I released last year is super underrated. And I think that they're a challenging listen, and I tell people that they're kind of a band's band, you know. There's just some artists that other artists get can wrap their head around easier than a fan can. And I think Deathgrave's one of those bands because they're really weird and they're challenging to listen to, and they're already playing grindcore, which is already a challenging genre to begin with, you know. Um, I absolutely love that band, and we did their second LP last year, and it did much better than the first LP. So we're growing, but it's definitely like a slow grow with a band like that. So I'm glad you asked. So run the track.
Here's Deathgrave with Ant Baby. That was Deathgrave with Ant Baby, and back to my chat with Scotty. Okay, and Scotty, the reason I kind of veered you in the direction of Tankcrimes is you got me really excited last year when you put out, and I think if I'm not mistaken, it was one of the ads that you put out in the magazine, which said two words, New Necrot. So I know there's a new Necrot album coming out, and already the pre-orders for the
Yeah.
new Ghoul EP are out, which is Noxious Concoctions. Uh, what's happening, or at least what can you reveal at this point of what's happening in the Tankcrimes camp this year?
Well, it's going to be hopefully our biggest year yet, because we do have this new Ghoul EP that's been announced. It's out actually next Friday, or I'm not sure when this is going to publish, but so it's out February 2nd. And very shortly after that, we will give an official announcement about the Necrot album, and the band has over 100 shows booked around the
Wow.
world for 2024. So Necrot put out one of the biggest death metal
Yeah,
records of 2020, and had to cancel
that was
100 shows. And then when the world opened back up and a lot of us got back to touring, there was another series of events in the Necrot guys' personal lives that actually lengthened the like having to take time off. They were ready to come back at the end of 2021, early 2022, like a lot of bands did. And there was another set of obstacles that set them back. I think that gave them the time to write their best album yet. And I'm really excited for people to hear it. And now they're going to get a chance to kind of come back and actually do all the plans that we had for 2020 and 2021. And so it's kind of like a story about getting a second chance, which is really cool. And we're all really excited about it here. The other thing that's most exciting about this year is that I was able to put together a label showcase tour, which, operating at the size of Tankcrimes, is extremely difficult to do, because the bands I'm working with, not everybody has, some people are living off the band and some people aren't, depending on what their cost of living is, where they live, what kind of stuff they want to do. But it's always difficult for a label my size with bands this size to get everybody to confirm to the same 4 or 5 weeks to leave home and travel together, right? And so in February and March, we're doing the Brainsqueeze tour, which is headlined by Municipal Waste, who's such an important band to Tankcrimes and my best friends. And then they'll be supported by Ghoul, Necrot, and also a newer band, not that new, but new to Tankcrimes, Dead Heat is a band whose EP I put out last year, and they will be the opening band on the tour. And it's just going to be a really cool way to showcase everything that's going on the label. And because we have Municipal Waste headlining, we got to do it in larger venues than we maybe would have had without them. And honestly, I owe them a lot of credit, to Municipal Waste, Tony especially, and also their booking agent, for actually doing all the heavy lifting and all the legwork here. And once it was all booked, now I've come in and really trying to be a marketing asset for the tour from the Tankcrime
Yeah,
side.
and that's particularly cool. I mean, when I saw the announcement for that, that's really interesting just to see. And it's also, I feel, with tour packages like this, right? It's also the mix of bands. Like, I have to be honest. I mean, I'm sure you've also been to shows, but as someone who's like more into extreme metal, like I've been in shows where there've been like 8 or 9 just like grindcore or death metal bands, and at some point your ears get like saturated, right?
Yeah, and in between the bands, they blast death metal and grindcore over the PA.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's more, and obviously there is, some people do want that, but for me, I agree, and I think I'm agreeing with you, is that I like it mixed up a little bit. I mean, if you brought someone who didn't have an ear for metal, they might not be able to hear the nuances between a thrash metal band, a crossover band, a death metal band. But us as fans, we really can, and it's really nice. So the tour will open up with Dead Heat's really like a thrash metal band, but they have serious like New York hardcore influences. So they are really just a traditional crossover band, and they kind of exist more in that hardcore world, which is really a strong scene right now, and so for them to open up and then go right into Necrot, who's playing death metal really with no frills, like a 3-piece, just lean and mean and straight to the point. Then you bring out Ghoul, who's playing this big mix of thrash and grind and death metal with their costumes and their characters and the robots and monsters they're fighting on stage. So that really ups the entertainment value, you know. And then Municipal Waste, of course, is one of the greatest live acts in metal. It's been proven over the last 20 years. They've played thousands of shows around the world, and anybody who has ever seen them from a club show to a festival knows that they really know how to put on a show and have a good time, and they know how to work the crowd and have a good time. And it's I've worked for Municipal Waste I've done every damn job besides play an instrument for Municipal Waste, from running, selling merchandise. I was a guitar tech for Municipal Waste, and I don't even play guitar. And my guitar player is a lefty, and I'm not. But we just made it work. I know how to tune the thing, and I know how to plug in the amps. I've set up all the gear and stage managed, tour managed, just about every job you could do besides record a song. So being out with my best friends, that's going to be a lot of fun for me too. And I may have lost my point about Municipal Waste, but you can obviously see I'm a massive fan.
No, and I think that's the thing. I mean, like, at some point in the conversation, I wanted to bring up that one thing I really like about you, and I think it's because you project this online also, is that you're not stuck in that, hey, this is what I do, right? And this is the only thing I'm going to do. And the point which I'm taking from Municipal Waste is you've done so much with them. Even though you don't play guitar, it just tells me that it's not about saying that, putting limitations to yourself, right? What would you take? I mean, like, especially if you kind of have to reflect back on 20 odd years, right? Or even longer that you've been involved in the music scene. What's been some of the learnings that you've kind of taken that have kind of held you through and are going to continue taking you forward in the next few years too?
Well, I mean, the one thing that I've learned to expect is that there's always going to be problems and obstacles along the way, and you have to deal with them. And one of the things I really like about this, and I'll tie it into a couple other of my interests, is I also I used to grow weed, cannabis, pot professionally, and I do it as a hobby now. And I used to screen print professionally, not t-shirts, but fine art prints and gig posters, really like high-end stuff. And then touring, which I love doing. And one of the things that all these things have in common is there's going to be a problem. There's no way problems aren't going to happen. It's in the nature of all those jobs. But what makes them different than other jobs is no problems can be put off until later. No problems can be readdressed tomorrow. Whether you're screen printing a fine art print, growing 99 pot plants for a medical dispensary, on tour, and then running the label too. The label actually gets a little more room here, but to my point, every problem needs to be addressed immediately or you can't move on. As soon as a problem is, it's all hands on deck. Everyone needs to be working together to solve this problem so we can keep going, because we're in a job of perpetual motion. There's no turning off the internet until tomorrow. There's no turning off the lights at the office and coming back to re-deal with the problem. It all has to happen, right away. And I like that kind of energy. I like that energy of solving. And I think that also my personal attitude actually adds value to those type of situations, because I'm very mellow and pragmatic about some of the stuff, and can help balance some of the hot and cold emotions around the problems when we're dealing with stuff like that. And I really like that. And that thread winds through all the stuff I do, both in my career and in my hobbies.
Awesome. I mean, so I have to ask you, and again, this is because you've been doing it so long, right? I mean, and I'm pretty sure this you would have expected at least to be doing a press tour and getting a question like this. In 2024, right? If you have someone who's in their teenage or early 20s talking to you and saying, I want to start a record label. Does it matter? Should I do it? What would you say to them?
I would say you should do it. And I would say it definitely does matter, because as much as, you know, a naysayer will say to me, well, I could just, you know, a musician can just get a laptop and record an album and put it right up onto digital and stuff. Like, what do you need? Well, I think every musician should learn how to record on their laptop, not to release that music, but so when they go into a real studio, they have much better understanding of the process, and it'll make you a better musician, a better artist. But that doesn't mean that it's the end all, that you can hit record and do your music. I think that the understanding is what will get you a better product in the end. So the things a label does really quick is a label will give you money, which helps everyone. A label has influence, and without that being a dirty word, I really mean a label has a following of fans that are coming behind them, and also knows people behind the scenes. You know, somebody in the press or other people are more likely to like open up an email from the label than a cold call from a band. You know, if you're looking for some attention. And then the other thing, which was one of the most difficult things in a label, is actually getting distribution. And some people think stores and physical media is not relevant right now, but I promise you that it is. And especially when a band goes on tour, they want to see their records in stores, and they deserve that. So all those reasons is why I say, yes, you should start a label. And I wish more people would start labels, because part of the reason I started a label was just that everybody around me had a label. When I was in the underground punk scene, it was like all the kind of scene elders that I looked up to. Like, so I'm 21 and they're like 31. So not an old man by any means, but that difference of a decade when you're young feels like a lot. You know, now that I'm 46 and they're 56, it feels like we're the same age. But when we were 21 and 31, they could have been 100 years old. They might as well have been my grandpa. But when I got into the scene in the early 2000s, all the people, like kind of the movers and shakers behind the scenes, and even just the guys in the bands that I liked, they were all doing labels. And so it was just kind of natural for me, like, oh, this is what, if you want to participate and do stuff, this is something I should try. And then once I did, I really liked it. But one thing I tell people that want to start a label, and I've stood by this advice for a really long time, it does cost money. You know, it costs, it's expensive, and you're going to lose a lot of money. It takes a while. One of the reasons I started growing cannabis was because I was in a lot of debt from the label, because you can have, like, if you have two stinkers in a row, like a label my size, if I put out two records in a row that don't connect with the fans the way that I think they should, and we get really low sales, fuck, two stinkers in a row is enough to shut somebody down sometimes. Because if you don't have another income to back it up, and you're you know, all of a sudden you're down $10,000 on a release, it's really hard to get back from that. And now I'm at a point where there's a larger catalog, so some of the bigger releases can support some of the smaller ones. But what I'm getting at is, my advice is, you will not make money when you start, and you might not even break even when you start. And so what I tell people to do is to save up a few $1,000s, three to $5,000. Save it up. Hold it in your hand. Get up, you know, like you got the fucking cash, $5,000. It wasn't easy to save up. You worked really hard for it. Now, when you're holding it, you have to be able to say, am I okay if this money's just fucking gone? If I just put it into something that I'm passionate about, but if I never get any of it back, can I live with that? And then if the answer is yes, you're ready to start a record label.
Wow, that's beautifully put. Okay, we've got a few minutes, and I have to kind of give a few shout outs, hear some final thoughts from you. But
Cool.
yeah, I'm sure you're going to have a busy couple of months. So all the best for the Brainsqueeze tour. And like you said, right, there's so many different things that you do. So I'm sure that'll be there. I definitely want to give a shout out to the Ghoul album, since we've got that single and I've got a press copy of it. I'm going to play a track of it. Anything you want people to know about the Ghoul album before we sign off?
It's just as good as anything they've ever fucking done. And they hadn't recorded anything new in like 6 years. And we sold so many of those records the very first day we announced it. And it really it was really nice to know that people still cared about Ghoul, because when we're in this, we talked about perpetual motion and stuff like that. Necrot had all these setbacks, and now we're about to come back and see if everybody still cares. Ghoul had really taken some time off from recording and hadn't done very much, and we came back and the fans were still there for us, so we're just really happy about that. Ghoul's got fucking 10 records out, so if you already like them, you're gonna like this. It is really they've definitely developed their own sound, what we call splatter thrash or whatever, but it sounds like Ghoul. If you already own a record by Ghoul and you enjoy it, you are going to enjoy this one. And of course, the live shows are just phenomenal. So you got to make it out to the show.
Awesome. Definitely going to play a track off that to end this episode. But thanks so much, Scotty. Really appreciate you taking time out.
Yeah, for sure, Peter. It was really great to talk to you, man. Thanks for making the effort to get in touch. I really appreciate that. And like I said when we started, it's so cool to be talking to a metal fan in India, because it's not every day I get to sit and do that, so it's very cool. And also it gives me a lot of excitement to know that you're so far away and that we're still connected through this music. That's really part of what makes this so fascinating to me.
Awesome.
Here's Ghoul with their title track Noxious Concoctions. And that was Ghoul with the title track of their EP, Noxious Concoctions. What a great chat with Scotty. I really enjoyed speaking to him and just kind of understanding behind the scenes of an underground label in 2024. Do let me know if you want me to get more people that work behind the scenes, maybe people from PR or A&R to talk about metal in 2024. Can definitely line up a few chats like that. As always, you can hit me up on trendcrusher@gmail.com or just follow me on social media. I'm Trendcrusher on most platforms. I'll see you all very soon. Cheers.